land overlooking the secret base at Area 51 has officially been taken from the owners and transferred to the Air Force.
Yeah, last month the Air Force condemned the Groom Mine property when the family that owns it rejected a government buyout they felt was unjust.
The I-Team's Glenn Meek broke the story of the family's fight with the government and joins us with this latest development.
Yeah, you know, the Sheehan family, which had owned the mine up until now, had expected an uphill fight. And they also expected that the government would probably end up taking the land through eminent domain, even though the Sheehans owned it since U.S. Grant was in the White House. Now, literally with the stroke of a pen, a federal judge has turned the land over to the Air Force. And the only part of the fight left for the Sheehans is compensation and what will happen to the equipment, buildings, even human remains still at the site. In the remote central Nevada desert, the Groom Mine has been an island of private property surrounded by a vast government buffer zone. The buffer zone is patrolled by security troops to prevent people from getting a look at the secret Air Force base at Groom Dry Lake, better known as Area 51. The family that owns the mine overlooking Area 51 has been at odds with the Air Force, which condemned the property last month after the family declined a $5.2 million buyout.
I have a geologist friend who I took out there who's just a buff and, you know, gets into digging and all. And he said it is literally almost priceless. There is so much there, just not only in the ore that's in the ground that can be mined, but in all of the intrinsic value of what's on the land.
What's on the land includes buildings, mining equipment, and the remains of kin who worked the mine since the family acquired it in the 1870s. And there's the question of indignities suffered by the family from nearby government testing over the years, including buildings strafed by military planes and radiation drifting downwind from above-ground nuclear shots in the 50s and 60s.
This has been, like I said, a 60-plus year, nothing short of criminal activity on the part of the federal government, the AEC, Black Ops, CIA, you can go on and on.
And now what the Sheehans see as the final indignity. On September 16th, federal judge Miranda Dew signed this order in the condemnation case, giving possession of the Groom Mine property to the United States government. The Sheehans have asked for a jury trial, but the issues will be limited to how much the Air Force must pay for the land and the disposition of the equipment and personal property left on the land.
There's nothing fair, there's anything remotely close to that involved in this process.
But there never has been either, so, I mean, it's nothing new. But we would like to change it, at least to get our stuff out and be paid the value.
Someone talk to me.
The Air Force made its final $5 million offer to the Sheehans after concluding that the security and safety of defense testing in that area made private land ownership impossible. The condemnation case the Air Force filed values the land at only $1.5 million. The Sheehans say it's worth much more than that, considering the value of the minerals in the mine, the abuses the family has suffered over the decades, and the land's historical significance. And of course, coming up at 9 at 6, we're going to see a matriarch of the Sheehan family who went out there and takes a sad final look at the final resting place of her husband.
A lot of history there for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Glenn.